Hi, friends. Welcome back to your practice. I am Katie Arnold, and today's practice is a yin style practice designed to do right before bed to help you wind down or in a later part of the evening when you're just trying to find some separation from your day ahead. My suggestion, if you have the ability to do so, is take your lights down nice and low. I would do so, except then you would not see me in this video. But at home, you have the ability. Maybe take the lights down a little bit. You could play some gentle music to help set the tone. And props wise for this practice, make sure you grab one blanket and two blocks. If you don't have a blanket, you could grab a chunky towel, anything that we're just going to use to help soften the surface beneath us. And if you don't have blocks in your space, you could grab really anything. You could grab a couple of thicker pillows. That would be a really nice replacement. You could grab a stack of books. Options are endless, right? So we're going to get started then in a child's pose, and I'm going to take my blanket. I'm going to keep it folded up a couple of times. I'm actually going to adjust my folding here. And we're just going to use this to soften the surface underneath our knees. So my blanket is folded a few times, and then I'm taking it about halfway or so down my mat. Knees are going to come out nice and wide, and we're just going to find a child's pose. So we have these blocks. You can use them as much as you would like in this practice, whether I make suggestions to do so or not. And then take your hands, walk them out in front of you, and forehead can rest down. Now, especially if this is not available for your forehead to make it all the way down to the mat, this is a great place that you could take a block and you could slide a block underneath your forehead, so then you still get some support here. And so find the variation that is going to be most comfortable, most supportive for you. And the thing with yin style practices, yin or restorative style practices, is we hold our poses for a little bit longer. So we're going to hold each of our poses today for about 2 to 3 minutes a piece. And so in a lot of these positions, I'm looking for you to still get an active stretch, whereas in a lot of restorative practices, we're actually looking to just fully support the body and have more of a passive stretch. But in a yin style practice like this one, I want a little bit more of an active stretch. So I have the knees out nice and wide here, and then the belly gets to relax between the knees. And for me, I feel a nice stretch in my hips, in between my thighs. You're getting a stretch in the back. And then right now I have my hands softening down to the mat, my forearms softening down. And I don't have a huge opening in the upper back and shoulders. But if we want to make this a little bit more active in the upper back and shoulders, then we walk the hands further away from the body, lifting the forearms off of the mat. And so I want to invite you to kind of explore a little bit for yourself and find what feels most supportive. I've had a lot of tension in my upper back and shoulders the last couple of days. And so for me, this active stretch in the upper back and shoulders feels really nice. So I'm going to hang out here. But if you need to make some adjustments for yourself, please give yourself that opportunity to make those adjustments. And there's no specific breath pattern that I'm going to pull into our practice today, but you might hear me make some breath cues, just of taking a breath in and then exhale, softening a little bit deeper. But otherwise, I want you to just find the breath that feels most supportive for you. Take one more big breath in. And exhale, let it go. Walk the hands back in. Lift yourself back up and out of this child's pose. We're going to take our blocks, and I'm going to recommend bringing them to the highest height. But again, you can make some adjustments as we get into our posture. But we're coming into our low lunges. So I'm just going to start by stepping that right foot forward. So my left knee is going to stay down on the mat. And again, that blanket is just there for support. And my hands are going to rest on either side of the on the blocks on either side of that right foot. And you, again, can control how much you lunge into that right knee, or if you need to pull the hips back a little bit if it becomes too much. We are here for 2 minutes on each side. You might see me check my watch for the time just to confirm that I'm keeping you even on both sides here. And then maybe you even use your breath here, not just to help you soften into the posture, but you might also use it as a point of focus. So sometimes when we are in more of a vinyasa class and we are moving pose to pose, our mind kind of can get focused on the postures that we're in and how it feels in each posture. And then we land in some of these slower practices and we're holding postures a little bit longer. And our mind kind of gets stuck and we're waiting for what's to come next, especially if we've had a really busy day. Sometimes we can get caught in that space as well of what's coming next. How long are we going to be here? So when you find your mind wandering off, maybe having those questions, landing in that space, I just want to invite you to bring it back to just an awareness of your breath. It doesn't mean you have to change your breath or control your breath, but you just simply notice the breath and use that as a way to ground back into your practice, come back to presence. Take one more breath in and out. And come back to a tabletop position, stepping that right foot back. And we're just going to switch all of this over to the other side. So that left foot is going to come forward. Find your lunge, hands on either side. And soften into your low lunge, finding the lunge that works for you, sending that breath to all of the places where you feel a really nice opening. So for me right now, there's a lot of breath that I'm just visualizing going to the front of that right hip, into that right hip flexor that feels really tight. I got in a run earlier today and had leg day yesterday. So this feels really nice after all of that to just stretch it out. Focus on that breath. And another technique that you can use if your mind is wandering off is also to bring the awareness to the places where you're making contact with your mat. So you might feel the bottom of that left foot on the mat. You might feel the top of the right foot on the mat, your hands on each block. Any of those places where you're making contact with the mat, you have the ability to just notice those sensations and use that as a way to pull your awareness back, to ground you back into the present moment here. And we have just a couple more breaths. Big breath in and exhale, let it go. Come back to that tabletop position. Set your blocks off to the side for a moment and just give me a couple rounds of a cat and cow. So, tabletop position, and then inhale, drop your belly, lift your gaze. Exhale, round your spine. That feels really nice right now. Inhale, drop your belly. Exhale, round the spine. Do one more round. All right. Send the hips over the heels. We'll move this blanket out of the way. You can keep it nearby just in case you want it. And we're going to come onto our back. So bring your blocks with you. I'm going to move my meditation cushion out of the way, lower onto your back. And then once you get there, we're going to bring the soles of the feet together. Knees are going to come out wide. And we're going to take those blocks and just slide them underneath the knees. And again, you can kind of choose if you have them further up underneath the thighs for more support, or if you have them underneath the knees, if you have them on the lowest height, middle height, highest height. That really just depends on each of our bodies. And then if you want to, you could take your blanket and just bring it underneath the head for a little bit of support. Maybe you roll the edge of it and let your head rest over it. So it's like a neck pillow. That feels really nice for me right now. Again, hands can be by your side, or you could bring one hand to your heart, one hand to your belly. You could even kind of remove these blocks for a little bit. And then if it becomes too much of an opening, this is a big hip opening. So if it becomes too much, then you just slide those blocks back underneath for a little bit of support. So we've got options here. I want you to feel that stretch, but I don't want you to take this too far to a point that feels too intense. And softening in. Eyes can close down or take a gentle gaze up towards the ceiling. Let yourself rest. Let yourself unwind. Give yourself about another minute or so in this Supta Baddha Konasana, our butterfly on the back. Allowing the hips to open. Allowing the breath to be natural and easy. We carry a lot of stress and tension in our hips. So before we go to bed this evening, let's just see if we can let some of that stress, some of that tension go. So we're setting ourselves up for a really restorative and restful evening. And start to bring the knees in. And so for me, I like to take my hands and just help pull the thighs back together. Plant both feet down on the mat and just gently windshield wiper your knees side to side for a moment. You can take those blocks and you can move them off to the side for now. And then bring both knees into your chest. And exhale, drop the knees over to the left. Right arm can come out. So gentle supine twist. If it's hard to get the legs all the way down to the mat, they don't need to. But this is also where you could take a block and you could slide them under the knees for support. Adjusting the placement of the block to the place that's most comfortable and supportive for you here. Gazing up towards the ceiling or maybe over that right shoulder. You can keep that blanket roll underneath the head if that feels supportive, or you can move it out of the way. For me right now, that feels just so lovely. So I'm going to keep that blanket roll right where it is. But you do you. Next inhale, knees are going to come back in through center. And then exhale, just start to take it to the other side. So if you used that block, maybe you transfer the block with you. And make the adjustments as you need to. Each side is going to be a little bit different. So it definitely felt like I had more space in my twist on the other side. So I'm really going to just be kind to my body here. I'm not going to force anything. Knowing that if more space becomes available, we always have the ability to settle into that space, but we don't need to force anything, especially not when we're getting ready for bed, unwinding from our day. And bring the knees back in through center. Then plant your feet down on the mat. Go ahead and move that blanket roll out from underneath. Again, keep it nearby in case you want it for our Shavasana. But feet are going to be down on the mat, knees up towards the ceiling. Press into the feet, lift the hips, take your block on the lowest height and slide it underneath. And then allow the hips to rest down on that block. So we start in this low supported bridge pose, but where we're going to go is actually a legs up the wall. Now, if you have a wall nearby, you are welcome to actually send your legs up the wall, or if you want to use the edge of a couch or a chair and have your knees at a 90-degree angle, you can do that too. You likely will not need or want the block in those situations, but since I'm going to show you how to do this without us using the wall or using our chair, I like the block underneath to help take some of the work out of the posture. So again, if you're not actually using a block and you're using a thick pillow, you can still do that here. So bring the knees into your chest, maybe make some adjustments to the placement of that block if you need to, and then send the legs up towards the ceiling. Flex the toes back down towards your face. We are in our legs up the wall. Now, again, you might have to make some adjustments, and depending on the block that you have, you might have to make some adjustments. Or if you're finding that if you have a cork block like I do right now, these can be not quite as comfortable for this kind of posture. So you could take a blanket and lay it over your block, or you could actually take your blanket, roll it up into a little blanket burrito, slide that underneath your hips, and then send your legs up the wall or up towards the ceiling as well. So we have ways that we can adjust this to make it be more comfortable. It does not need to feel like you have the edge of a block digging into your low back. That is not the goal here. So make adjustments that you need to. We are here for a couple of minutes, so you have time. And if you need to bring a little bit of a bend to your knees, you can do that. You need to give yourself some breaks by taking your legs back down and then sending your legs back up again. You can do that as well. Legs up the wall is a really beautiful way to help calm the nervous system and to help our bodies relax. So this is our final posture before we move into our Shavasana, our final resting posture. So we're really going to use this here to help our bodies soften into this practice, soften into this last little bit before we invite in our sleep or the later parts of our evening, just before sleep. Just about another minute here. And bring the knees in towards the chest. Plant your feet down on the mat. Press into your feet, lift the hips up, slide that block out from underneath and lower back down. And then bring your knees back into your chest and just take some gentle rocks side to side. We're going to set ourselves up for Shavasana. So if you want to use your blanket as a pillow, you are welcome to slide that back underneath your head. You are welcome to use your blocks in any way. For today's practice, I'm actually going to slide my blocks underneath my knees for a little bit of support. You could try that on, see how that feels. Arms can rest down beside you. You could use your blanket as a blanket and cover your body. So get yourself nice and comfortable. Feel supported here. Make any adjustments until you find that place that you truly can be the most supportive, we're going to be in this posture for a few minutes because this is our final posture practice. This is the culmination of this entire class to help us relax and prepare for sleep. So taking our corpse pose, our shavasana, in silence and in stillness. Take a big breath in. Let it go. Little fingers and toes. Move nice and slow. And if you are taking this literally right before you go to bed, then maybe you don't even worry too much about waking up the physical body. And you just transition yourself more or less right into your bed. Otherwise, start to roll onto one side, finding a fetal posture. And gently pressing yourself up to a seat. And once you get there, inhale, sweep those arms out nice and wide, palms meet overhead. Exhale, let your hands come down through heart center. Thank you so much for joining me. Om Shanti. Peace. You all so much. I hope you enjoyed this practice. I hope you have a good evening of sleep. This practice came out of a request from someone else in our community who is looking for a before bed practice. So if you have any requests, please know that I always love to bring them to you if I can. And so leave your requests in the comments, like this video, subscribe if you're not already, share with a friend, you know all the good stuff. Otherwise, have a great evening of sleep. Grab my free daily practice calendar. The link is in the description below, or find my ad-free membership also in the description below. As a small creator, I don't have control over the placement of ads in any of my content. And so my solution for that is in the description. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you back on your mats for your next practice.